Well, hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and it's another edition of the Blues Fix here on misplacedstraws.com. And my guest today is one of the top guitarists and singers in the modern blues scene. Discovered by none other than Dave Stewart of Eurythmics when she was only 16, throughout her amazing solo career, she's gone on to record with greats like Joe Bonamassa and Kenny Wayne Shepherd. She's currently on the road supporting her 2022 record Nobody's Fool, as well as a couple of new singles that we'll talk about. Please welcome Joanne Shaw Taylor. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Now, you've been on the road for quite a while now, supporting Nobody's Fool. How's the tour been going? What's it been like for you out there?
It's been wonderful. I've loved every second of it. I have a little bit of a cold. You might be able to tell that I'm kind of kicking in the backside. It's finally going away. But even with that, it's to be able to get back to live music after the whole shutdown, and traveling and have such a wonderful band and crew. It's been brilliant, and audience has been great. So I'm thoroughly enjoying myself.
Yeah. And now you mentioned your band. Who's on the road with you?
They're mostly all Detroit based. Eric Savage on the drums, Steve Lee Hain on the bass guitar, who also engineered my album, Reckless Heart, and the Reckless Blues EP. Joey Speener on second guitar, and Phil Whitfield on keyboards.
And now you're about to swing up here to the Northeast. You got a run of shows coming up through New England and New York. And it's weird. This area of the country has not only always been a stronghold for the blues scene over the years, but there are just some really knowledgeable fans up here when it comes to the history of it. When you're on the road, do you kind of notice the differences between the crowds in different geographical areas?
Not too much in the States. You notice it more country to country. And particularly, when you get into, it's always a bit more of a challenge or a fun challenge, when you get into certain countries or cities that, there's a language barrier. And trying to talk in between, you have to figure out a way of communicating beyond the music. So that's always a challenge. But, for the most part, Americans are a little bit rowdier than us Brits, or the English in particular. Scotland are fantastic. So yeah, there's those sort of differences, which are, I love all of it, but it is funny to, we kind of put bets on like, hey, we're playing in Newcastle tomorrow night. Do you reckon that's going to be louder or quieter than Glasgow?
Now, Nobody's Fool came out about a year ago. You've also recently released a couple of new singles, Sweet Little Lies, and most recently Black Magic. And I know Black Magic has a pretty interesting history, as you were originally considering it as an instrumental for Nobody's Fool. Talk a little bit about that track, and does this mean that we're going to be seeing a new record from you coming up soon?
Yeah, probably next year. I don't think we have a release date yet, but we have recorded it. We're just sort of leaking singles out at the moment because I know fans are forever wanting fresh material. So Black Magic, yes, I had it as like an acoustic blues kind of stomp. And yeah, I thought really it would just work well as I think of making an album. I think of a vinyl more than anything because that's what I listen to. So I was thinking of it opening up B-side, and kind of introducing you to the second part of the album. So, and I just had it stuck in my head, and then it occurred to me, you could try and write lyrics to this. Which I did, and actually it turned out being a really fun little number. And I'm glad we did that because I love what Kevin Shirley did with the backing vocals because I wasn't there for that. And if no one's heard it, it's almost like a call and response thing, and it just gives it this really. It sounds like we're in a studio, kind of having a few drinks and just having kind of a bit of a more raucous kind of fun time. So I love the atmosphere that created.
It's a great song. And you mentioned Kevin, and you've been spending a lot of time in Nashville. Now, even though you've done so much in your career and you've been everywhere, is there still an excitement when you walk into such an iconic place like Studio A with somebody like Kevin Shirley sitting behind the booth?
It was really interesting to me to walk in there this time because I recorded there in 2015 with Kevin, and I was terrified. I honestly felt out of my depth and like the weakest link. And, we're working with Michael Rhodes and Greg Morrow, these titans of the Nashville scene. And it was Michael Rhodes pulled me aside because I can't read charts either, and they were having quick discussions when you're recording about going from a 4 to a something, and it's like, why are we doing maths right now? I don't know what you're saying to me. And Michael actually said, it's all well and good that we can pick things up quickly and we can do what we can do, but we don't have a job without you. You're the reason we are even here. You should, really start to think about that. And it was such a nice change to realize coming in now in 2023. And I walked in that studio, and it's, Kevin I've known for years, and we've had all kinds of conversations as you do with friends. We know each other very well. And I felt like I was walking in with my people, and it just realized what a lovely life, how lucky I've been to build this career for myself, and with a lot of support. But so it wasn't so nerve-wracking, but it was more it made you, one of those moments you think about how lucky you are, and grateful.
Well, and it's funny because I think it shows how much you've grown over the course of your career, that I think now you have that confidence when you walk into a place that you belong there, and that translates in the music. I think you hear that if you listen to the newer stuff as opposed to the earlier. You can almost hear that, your confidence evolving with it.
Well, thank you. I think so. And I wonder sometimes if it's particularly being a female in a male-dominated industry that, it's a little bit more difficult when you're younger. And then you do get to a certain age where you understand yourself better. So things like having that confidence to walk into a room, but also having the confidence to know that, if you mess up or you're not right for the job, that's not a bad thing. It's just you did your best, so don't beat yourself up over it. So I think it becomes, as I'm sure I think there just becomes a point in life where you settle down and you're happy with who you are as a person, hopefully, and you're just a bit softer on yourself. So yeah, age is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Well, and again, looking back at the beginning, we mentioned Dave Stewart, and first off, I don't think he's ever gotten the credit he deserves for his guitar playing and songwriting, first of
Fully
all.
agree.
But what was your reaction when somebody like Dave Stewart taps you when you're 16 and offers not only to kind of be a mentor, but to bring you into his band?
To be honest, I look back at it now and I'm so glad it happened when I was that young, because I had no idea of the gravity of it. And I didn't really know who he was. I knew my dad was, I try not to swear, but losing his something. And I think that naivety, because nothing's ever gone wrong because you're too young to have had, that many bad experiences. Whereas now, if that suddenly happened, that would, the weight of that would probably be quite, I'd understand a bit more. So I think at the time it was like, yeah, cool, I don't get to go to school anymore. Thank God, I hate school, So I was also an idiot, basically. So.
And your music, as we said, has really evolved since your first record up to now. The core of it, I think, is always that blues guitar. But, I mean, you're a soul singer. You are equally adept at rock as you are with sort of traditional R&B. Is it important to you to keep pushing the boundaries of what we consider to be a blues artist and trying something new?
I don't think that's really been my motivation. As I've gotten older, I've realized a lot of it was because I consider myself to be a blues guitarist and a blues musician, but I don't consider myself to be a blues artist. I don't think my music is necessarily blues. If you think it is, that's great. If you don't think it is, that's great. And I think that stems from, because all my early influences were guitar players, they're all male. And I could try and learn from Albert Collins and B.B. King and Steve Ray Vaughan. But when I tried to learn to sing, that I was never going to be able to sound like they did. So I had to go and find other influences. And the most female influences were in soul genres or pop, whether that be Tina Turner or Dusty Springfield, or, I loved Pink. And then obviously as a songwriter, I mean, I love the blues and I love the feel of it, but when it came to me writing songs, I'm not going to sing Good Morning Little Schoolgirl, or, it just didn't feel right as a songwriter. So again, I had to find songs that suited me. So it's more been that, there wasn't any one woman I could look to and go, that's what I want. There was Bonnie, but I don't play slide.
Mhm.
So it was, whereas dudes, if you want to be a male guitar player that sings, all right, do you want Joe Satriani? Do you want Kenny Wayne Shepherd? Do you want Al Di Meola? You've got everything.
Mhm.
So I think that was the main thing, was like, okay, how do I be me? And what is that?
Well, and I love that because I think in the genre, we've seen exactly what you just said happen a lot over recent decades. When you look at yourself, Ali Venable, Anna Popovic, Beth Hart, Eliza Niels, all these amazing women that, yes, the base is there from, the traditional blues greats, but you've all just exploded this genre into something completely new. As you were doing it, though, have you ever felt like either held back or pressured by record companies who wanted to move you back into that traditional slot while you were, bringing in all of these other influences?
No, I've always been quite lucky in that regard. The thing I've pushed back against is usually image,
Mhm.
being female, and how I'm represented as a female. Um, because I found it very frustrating when I was younger that it was always, because I started so young, it was like 15-year-old guitar player,
Yeah.
16-year-old guitar player. I thought, I can't wait to turn 21
Yeah.
so I can just be taken for my talent.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm not good enough, if I'm not matching up to, you think that guy's better or she's better, that's fine, but it's not because I'm young.
Mm.
And then I turned 21 and it was female guitar player. I'm like, oh, I didn't see that coming. So I specifically tried to stay away from that, like the girls with guitar tours. I
Mm.
told Thomas Ruff that I'll do a girls with guitar tour when you do a boys with toys tour. It's so that was my main sort of challenge, was just trying to, I guess, so that other women can come through and realize girls can play this instrument. It's a gender
Mm.
neutral instrument, just
Yeah.
as a female doctor is a doctor and isn't, we don't say male doctors.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was more of an issue for me than people trying to sway me with the music, because I think they knew that would never happen.
And I always found it interesting. And I think the blues as a genre is very unique in this sense, in that older generations have always kind of taken the younger under their wing, going back to, Muddy Waters bringing the Stones on stage with him. And
Mm.
you've had some great mentors, with Dave Stewart and people like that. But like Joe Bonamassa in particular, what's he meant in your career?
I mean, I think with Joe, it's just been such a personal support. I mean, why? I think the reason we really hit it off, and the night we met, we talked till like 6 in the morning or something, just the two of us, because I hadn't met anyone else that had done what I had done, had been, shuttled up and down the motorway at 13
Mhm.
with their parents to go play gigs. And I know a few people who had done that, but they hadn't had the success I'd had in terms of like playing with Jimmy Cliff or Dave Stewart. Whereas meanwhile, in New York, Joe's 15 and playing with BB King.
Yeah.
Um, so it was a really, I have lots of wonderful friends my age, but none who've gone through that kind of experience and then have had to, I'm driving the van, I'm tour managing, I'm doing this, I'm exhausted. And he was just that little step ahead of me that he could give advice. And for instance, I remember finishing a tour, Rockland, Maine, and I had to drive myself back to Detroit. And I was like, I got to get there for a certain time. So I started driving after the gig in the dark. And Joe phoned, he was on tour and he'd finished his show, and he phoned and just kept me talking. And then eventually said, okay, I've booked you a hotel room in Manchester somewhere. Can you please pull over and get a nice sleep on me? I'd feel a lot better about it. It's like, okay, thank you. Because, I couldn't afford a hotel. So things like that. He's just been a massive support to me personally, which, I could have done it without him, but I'm glad I didn't have to. know.
And we mentioned the new single, Black Magic, and hopefully got a record coming next year. Where do you see yourself going forward? Do you kind of have your eye on the path you're on? Do you foresee maybe some detours here and there of, doing a band situation or playing with someone
Mm.
else? Or, what do you see coming up for you?
I think it would be nice to start branching out just because, I mean, one, I don't plan too much. What I keep trying to do is evolve
Mhm.
because, I can't tell you right now what album I'm going to play in 2 years' time because I'm not that person. I haven't had the experiences she's going to have in the next 2 years.
Mm.
For all I know, I might accidentally take a bunch of acid and decide I'm going to do it. I just don't know what the future brings. But I will keep trying to be true to myself. That's important to me, to look back and say, I can honestly look at all my albums and say they were the right album to make at that time. And I didn't put anything out that I was, forced to do or didn't like, or, other things I might change about them now. Yes, but wasn't that musician then, and I can't, I couldn't have done it. So that's important to me. And then just things like writing for other people, I think, would be important to me. And I'm starting to write for a TV show. Um, and yeah, and just nurturing younger artists, if I could get into helping them figure out this incredibly fun but utterly bizarre circus of an industry, that would be very rewarding, especially females coming up,
Mm.
like Ali,
Yeah. Yeah, she's an amazing talent. I got to see her with Kenny Wayne a year or two ago, and could not believe the sound that she had. She had wonderful tone. It was
Yeah, I
fantastic.
did a couple of shows with the Ormond Betts family revival
Mhm.
thing. She joined me and Sam for a couple of shows, and she was fantastic, and she was also, I hope it's not condescending to say, but adorable, just a lovely, woman. I shouldn't say girl, but I'm old, I get to say it.
Well, we've been spending some time here with Joanne Shaw Taylor. She's on the road now. We got a ton of dates coming up. You'll be hitting the Northeast here as well as getting through the rest of the country. The new single's called Black Magic. It's a really cool song. It's a lot of fun. It's out everywhere now. Joanne, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking some time to do this. And I definitely look forward to doing this again, hopefully when the new record comes out.
Thank you very much. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me.
My pleasure.
All right, love. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.